just a real quick video about I was watching this podcast, or listening to it rather, about some singers struggle with addiction and stuff like that. And there's just something about when I was getting sober that I just never really, like, when they told me it, I wasn't sober. So you just kind of, when you're not sober, you kind of just accept things because you're, under the influence of substances mostly. So you're just kind of like listening, but, I don't know, what I'm getting at is, it's like I was listening and they're talking about this singer, and the host says, well, he's genetically disposed to alcoholism because his mom is half Cherokee, Indian, or Native American, or, whatever the correct tribe was. I forget at this point. But it's like, well, okay, so to me, no one ever questions that. I was told before I was even an addict, you just hear this stuff when your mom's on the phone with somebody and you're a kid. Well, it runs in their genes. Their grandfather was a notorious whatever, or their stepmom was or their mom was a drinker. It was in her mom was the same way, and da, da, da. So where is it genetically? So if it's a genetic disposition, where is it on a CAT scan or in blood work or whatever that you are, genetically, have those markers? It's not like, there's markers for some things that show up, when you get a blood test and, you're looking for things like, oh, there is signs that this could happen later on. Well, there's signs in everybody that could be a thing in you, and it's part of the human nature. It's part of our fallen nature. It's part of our sin nature. It's part of just what humans are made of. We're always looking for things that alter or medicate or provide some sort of relief or assistance in facilitating better, mental health or feelings or something, or performance or whatever. So like for me, it's like saying, how do people, like no one ever says, well, meth is, their mother-in-law was on it, or their father was on it. So, you can, they're kind of have that gene for, it's only for like things like alcoholism and stuff. Well, I just really just have to call bullshit on that, And another thing that I'd like to call bullshit on, and I've done this before, is the once an addict, always an addict kind of like bumper sticker that they like to paint you with. Because what they're telling you is, it's like in a passive aggressive way, like, yeah, you've been successful, but you'll always be a junkie. You'll always be a crackhead. You'll always be a tweaker. You'll always be a drunk or whatever, And to me, it's like, well, when someone breaks their arm and it gets healed and they haven't broken their arm again in a long time, I would say they're healed, Fucking idiot neighbor. So for me, I just go, well, where is the truth in that? Or is it just who we are as a species? Like who we are as a species is, we like sweets, we like junk food, we like pornography, we like drugs, we like spending money that we don't have, we like living, this way or dangerously or whatever. So for me, it's like, like I was on opiates for 10, 11 years, and long story short, I used to buy opiates and spend thousands of dollars a month on them and take over 180 Percocets in 6 or 7 days. And, well, God's delivered me of all that. You know what I mean? My life doesn't revolve around, I don't even think about pills or when I'm in pain, using something that I used every day for a decade, for a third of my life or a quarter of my life at this point. yeah, you need to watch out for it. Like, relapse signs and prevention. Like if I stopped going to the gym, or I stopped doing this or stopped caring or started like growing a beard or something, like, yeah, there's a chance that you're getting into a sign that there's going to be problems down the road. So for me, when they say, once an addict, always an addict, well, I'm not an addict anymore, because if I was an addict, I would be still taking pills. I am a former, addict. I'm not a person that's actively working any, program or anything like that. There's things in AA and NA that, you know, to thine own self be true. You know, yeah, obviously you should be true to yourself. But when you're an addict, you're not going to be true to yourself, but you're not going to be true to those around you. And they got that straight out of the Luciferian Bible with their pyramid and everything else. That might be a shocker to some people that aren't in the know, but or the now. But like, to thine own self be true. That goes without saying. Obviously, you want to be true because you've been lying. You have to have a small dick to have a fucking muffler like that in your car. I'm just going to say that. There's obviously some problems in that situation. There's obviously some kind of like thing that, like, you want to be true. Well, the truth will set you free. But the truth is not some multifaceted thing. The truth is the truth, and it's all encompassing, and it's in everything. So it shouldn't just be to thine own self be true, because it's making it all about you. It's all about what you've done to other people, the people that I've, hurt, the things that I've done, and I need to be able to paint myself with brush. I'm just going to be honest. Like when I first got sober, I came out in front of it while I was getting sober, and I didn't let anybody else own my own story. My story is my story. I'm not thrilled with things I've done in my life, but I've been forgiven. I just am not going to live in this past a pretense of, because there's no future. I remember one time I was sitting there thinking, because we all live in the past in some extent, and I was just thinking, like, I'm not going to live in the past anymore, and my past situations, my past relationships, my past jobs, my past this, because there's no future in it. I know the future includes me being sober. When you're an addict, like with pain pills, my whole life was how I could get enough money or get a script or go doctor shopping or steal or whatever, somebody's pills or whatever, to sustain that high, But when you don't do that anymore, and you did it like as a freaking profession, as a professional junkie, and you haven't done it in years, I've had a couple bumps in the road, but nothing that, relapse. And if you're going to a program and it doesn't talk about relapse or relapse prevention, you're in the wrong program, because relapsing is part of the whole process of getting sober. There will be these little, like when somebody tells me they haven't had a drink in 30 years, there's probably a high possibility that they're lying. You know what I mean? They probably had a drink, or they've had a relapse and they just don't want to. You have to, I don't know. If I'm going to be true, I'm going to be honest about it. You know what I mean? It's a struggle. But if you're on the winning end of it, you have no reason to lie or live under somebody else's guise of what is the criteria. But I can tell you that alcoholism doesn't run in anybody's family. Using methamphetamine doesn't run in anybody's family, as much as using steroids or gambling or pornography or whatever. It's like bootleggers, back in the day when alcohol was illegal. Well, I'm not a bootlegger now because my grandfather sold moonshine, and now I just can't get out of it because it's just something that my family does, or because I'm Italian or half Italian, we eat pasta for every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because I'm predisposed or genetically, no, you're either going to be struggling. Okay, and there's a point where I used to watch videos about people that were in recovery, and you just wonder: is there ever a point where I'm just going to be free and clear of this? Is there ever going to be a point where I can just not think about this stuff anymore, or not dwell on it, or not be so uptight or anxious about being in situational things? And yes, absolutely, it doesn't seem like it will happen, but it does. You start developing other things and hobbies, and there are things. I'm not in AA or NA. I've worked the 12-step program. I'm not in it any longer, but there are definite things in there that obviously work. The only danger I tell people about programs and stuff is you start kind of manipulating the program to, you need to be accountable, and you need to have to answer to somebody that isn't a family member, somebody that's, in this kind of, job description, I would say, as like a counselor or a drug counselor or somebody, even a probation officer, but you have to be accountable. You can't just say, well, I'm free and clear, and I'm off drugs and I don't answer, and you're not like showing test results, or you're not, because as an addict that you're a liar. You know what I mean? When you're using drugs that you're going to lie. It's kind of like when you're on a diet and you pretend that you didn't eat ice cream twice this week, and you're only supposed to have one cheat meal. You kind of just forget to tell people that, or maybe I had a few too many cookies after working out, or whatever the situation is. But there's just so many things in addiction that they want to let you know. It's like this disease that you can never get cure of. You can it kind of goes into what do they call that when remission? It goes into remission, but don't you worry, you're always going to be an addict. That's what the passive aggressive message is of addiction and recovery in most instances, is like there's a lot of positive stuff, but there's this underlying tone of, in real subtle ways, like you're always going to be a loser. You're always going to be somebody that anytime now, you could be off at the pawn shop, or you're one drink away. And for some people, that might be true in early stages, because I can tell you, as somebody that would take 30 to 40 to 50 painkillers a day for a decade or more, my life I don't even think about drugs. I wake up in the morning, my hip's sore, I've got a metal cage in my neck, I've got an elbow that needs to be rebuilt, my hip needs to be scoped, your knees start hurting. I've had a lot of physical jobs. I was doing mixed martial arts for a while, and just being a boy, I guess, doing what, not this generation, but my generation, we were pretty physical, I would say. We weren't playing, video games all day long. So for me, I'm not going to let anybody or any system, especially some of these counselors, especially some of these counselors that don't know, that they studied it, but they don't know it. It's like I see trainers at the gym. They don't work out. They studied the art of this field of, exercise and sports science and whatever you want to call it today. I don't know. I just call it weightlifting. But I see these people at the gym and they're training people and they don't have any experience other than, so they haven't lived it. They're not living the life of somebody that's a health conscious person. They're just a regular person with some college. You know what I mean? So when I sit across from, I had a doctor, I was on tramadol, and He had no, there's a lot of doctors out there that literally have no clue because they're so not into certain drugs that they don't know nothing about them. They'll go from like prescribing you Tylenol with codeine to like Percocet 30s or Roxycodones or whatever they're called. And they just go from like here to here. And so like these people are just people too, you know, unless they have like real like life experience. I'm not going to take a whole lot of, you know, knowledge from them or the negative stuff from them and go, you know, well, I guess, you know, at the end of the day, yeah, you're always going to be a sinner, just like anybody else. You're always going to be flawed. That's a given. But you don't have to live under this, you know, once an addict, I'm always an addict bullshit. It's like saying once you're a bowler, that you're always going to be a bowler, you know, you're always going to be a golfer. No, I quit. I don't bowl anymore. You know what I mean? And I haven't bowled in a fucking long time. So I'm not going to like talk to people in code or, you know, in this jargon that they pass on and phrases and stuff that you know, oh, once in a, you know, once you are, you always are, or da da da. Now there's some things I agree with, you know, and that's more of a personal discovery. People, places, and things. Well, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out that people, places, and things are probably going to get you fucked up later. You know, you are who you hang out with. You are, you know, like all that stuff is common sense, but it is real. That's real stuff that I took from that, you know, from that. That was probably the best for me. People undervalue the amount that being accountable has. If you're not accountable to anybody and you're not pissing in a cup and you're not being drug tested when you're first being sober, you have a very high chance of that not ever being and never working. You have to get beyond all that and give somebody that right or go to a place that, you know, has that, you know, ability to do that, you know. You know, it can't be your mom, you know, and you're putting urine in the refrigerator and pretending it's apple juice. And then when you go, you know, like it has to be a real, like legitimate, like situation. I'm not saying that everybody that's gotten sober has done that, but I would say about 90% or more probably. But I just don't want, you know, like the science of, you know, oh, well, you're predisposed because you're Native American. That you, there is no biomarkers. There is no CAT scan, MRI. There is no test that shows when you get your blood work, like an allergy test. There's no test that shows, well, it looks like, well, your cholesterol looks good, but it does look like in the future you're going to be using a lot of prescription pills. Yeah, your blood, yeah, it's about a 30 and it needs to be at about a 7. So yeah, that marker for opiate addiction is, you know, it's fucking utter nonsense. And no one ever questions that. No one, you just hear it and it's because you heard it, you know, and it's somebody that has a degree on a wall. Well, it must be fact. Well, they said they went to the moon. Okay. They say a lot of things that aren't true. So don't live under this guise. You know, there's always going to be a rain cloud and there's always going to be this, or it's not true. It's never been true. Humans are predisposed to bullshit like drugs and alcohol and pornography and fucking ice cream cake and, you know, gambling and all kinds of ludicrous shit that we do as humans because we're self-medicating by nature. We are creatures that like comfort and we like to live dangerously and we like the feelings that certain things give us. So every human has something. I can guarantee you I could take a Mormon missionary that's never done anything, any drugs, never even taken a Diet Coke and an aspirin together. And I can guarantee you I can find something because when I was younger, I used to say, man, people that get addicted to drugs like this or that, they must just be weak ass people. No, it's not. That's something that I said in ignorance and not having life, you know, like, you know, life experience. I remember I had a boss at one of these jobs 2 years ago that said, man, people that get addicted to drugs are just fucking weak and da 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 da. And I just chuckled to myself, and this guy's in his late 30s, and I'm like, you have no idea, because he has no idea. You have no idea. I can guarantee you I could take the squarest person in the world, a person that's never done drugs, alcohol, or, whatever, eaten meat, and I could guarantee you I can find you something that it will become your number one fucking pastime, and you will throw your entire life and future away to keep this feeling for the rest of your life. It's not because you're an addict. It's not because you're a junkie. It's not because you're a crackhead. It's because there's something in all of us that finds something that we finally go, this is what I've been looking for. Or, damn, I didn't know that this, whatever, like I did coke, I did meth, I did all kinds of shit in and out of high school, coming out of high school in my later years. But the first time and I've taken morphine before, and I've taken this and that. I just never took the right amount. Tylenol with codeine, but the first time I took a proper like Percocet, and I didn't even know what they were. I think it was Percodan, actually. It was like the ones with aspirin in them, which are I don't even think they make them anymore, probably in Canada. But the first time I took one of them, I said, now this is something that is great. Just like somebody that drinks after work or has that first drink, it gives you that feeling that you're like, I could make this part of my life. So I just want to leave you with that. I was watching a podcast, listening to a podcast, and you're talking about the singer. His family has Native American in them, and they're predisposed to alcoholism, and all of that is fucking complete and utter nonsense. There's no fact to it. It's not science. It's garbage. There's no biomarkers or any kind of rudimentary tests that show when you're, like you could get when you're like 5, that will go, well, you better watch out for Bud Light later on down the road, because you're going to get, drugs are drugs. They're addictive. Alcohol is a drug. It's addictive. You don't have to understand it for you to get addicted to it. You could grow up in a house of drinking and never drink. You could grow up in a house where drinking is a thing and drink. You know what I mean? Drinking isn't a thing to me. Well, for some people, it's what they do. I had a situation where one of my neighbors, a couple days ago, she was driving, and she like pulled right up on me, and I'm walking, like I'm carrying my dumbbells. I'm just walking. I got like my 15-pound dumbbells, and I lift them while I'm walking and stuff. And I've got these fucking things in my ear, and she like beeps the horn at me while I'm walking through the intersection. I see the car pull up, they stop. I'm already halfway through. They beep beep, and I look and I go, hey. Then they beep again, and I like look around and I go, like, what? What do you want me to do? Put these fucking weights down in the middle of the intersection? And then she proceeds to pull around on a busy street, stop, and start talking to me. And I go, I got fucking, I've got headphones in, or I got ear pods in, or whatever the fuck you want to call these things, And I said to her later, I said, I really hope, because she drinks every day, that's what, that's her, whatever. She doesn't come outside the house. She drinks every day. It is what it is. And I'm sure there's times where you operate a vehicle that you probably shouldn't be fucking operating a vehicle. You know what I mean? Probably most of the time that you're in a vehicle, if you fucking drink all day, every day, you probably shouldn't be in a vehicle. And the fact that your problem solving skills or your cognitive whatever was, hey, I think this looks like my neighbor. Oh, maybe I should start talking to him while he's carrying dumbbells and has headphones in and da-da-da-da-da. And it's in the middle of an intersection. Or just not cognizant of how loud your fucking horn is telling me that you're probably not operating at 100%. So I said something to her. I wasn't harsh about it. And she went right to, I don't have to explain myself to you. Fine. I'll never say hi again. And da-da-da. I'm like, You completely, you completely, and that's how we are when we're in that lifestyle. Oh yeah, yeah, I was high on pills, that's why this happened or whatever. Yeah, okay, you know, but it's like the way she responded just brought me back to, like addiction, like 101, the true stuff about addiction. The times where you call somebody out on something and it wasn't like, yo, what the fuck? Are you drinking and driving? The way I said it, she was just, I could tell the fact that her first lines were, I don't have to explain myself to you and da 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 da. I was going to work. Well, you don't have to explain yourself to me, but you're explaining yourself to me, you know? And it just was like, I could tell that she probably goes to work buzzed, you know? She probably sneaks drinks at work. She works at a bar, you know what I mean? Like, come on, an alcoholic working at a bar, you're going to go 8 hours, you know what I mean? But it was just like the way she responded was like, that's active addiction. You're in addiction. You are completely just lying to yourself. And I just kind of brought me back to the time where I used to lie to myself, so much so that the lie becomes, it's like you're a CIA operative. The lie becomes a legitimate thing that I'm just drinking because I want to drink. If I want to put it down, I'm not drinking that much. I'm drinking a 6-pack. I'm drinking 4 Bud Lights. I'm having 2 glasses of wine. If you need it every day, or you need it when stressful situations arise, or you can't stop for a weekend, or you can't put it down, you're lying to yourself and you're lying to others. And, the life that you have when you're in that is so trash, like, including myself. Like, I don't even have a television. I sat on my ass for 10 years with my neck fucked up and everything else, you know, eating everything under the sun, fat as fuck, couldn't even stand up for more than 10 minutes. And if somebody said to me, like, oh, you need to lose a few pounds, I'd be like, well, I carry it, I carry it good. I don't look like a fucking obese person riding around in a shopping cart, because we just rationalize stuff. So when they say the truth will set you free, not only will the truth like set you free, okay, it is total freedom of, you're able to tell the truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly to yourself first and foremost. But your entire life needs to be the truth. Not just to thine own self be true. Be true in everything you do, to your family, to your coworkers, to yourself, to your pets, to your workout partners, to whatever you're doing. You shouldn't have anything. It's like when I take my kratom and stuff, I don't care what people say about kratom. You know what I mean? A boss of mine was like, "Oh, it's like morphine and da 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 da." Be nice, Tommy. My cat is like looking at this other cat like, I'm gonna. Nice. It's okay. Give me a little shit. Hello, little baby. Anyways, so just wrapping this up. I gotta go feed these cats, and I gotta go to the hardware store. It's 9:13. All right, thank you guys. I appreciate you.